Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Culture Report. I'm Jamal Simon.
I'm DeMarco Randall.
And I'm Antonia Velez, and we have a very Pride Month
Pride-packed program.
Yes.
We got a lot
today.
of stuff to unload.
Yes.
I cannot wait to get
First,
into it.
we have a couple of headlines that we've been following to get through first, but I promise we have plenty of...
Just wait. Be patient. Be patient.
DeMarco, take it away.
Earlier this month, a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court of the United States declined to limit access to a widely used abortion medication, mifepristone. This case was brought by a group of anti-abortion doctors who argued access to the drug is too relaxed and can pose a risk to women's health. The court ruled that the plaintiffs didn't have the legal right to sue over the FDA's approval of the medication. Ever since the High Court overturned the nationwide right to abortion in 2022, medications like mifepristone have grown in importance. It was used in nearly 2/3 of all abortions in the U.S. last year. Despite the ruling being unanimous, it's unlikely to be the end of efforts to restrict access to the pill.
The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops issued a formal apology to Native Americans for the mistreatment and trauma the church inflicted at boarding schools. The apology was part of a document bishops voted on during their annual meeting. It describes how much the church forced Native American children to give up their traditional languages and customs and to assimilate to white culture. This new document also set new policies for ministering to Indigenous Catholics.
And Pride Month is coming to an end, and as important as it is to continue embracing the beauty of coming out and owning your queerness, it's equally important to recognize the blatant hate and bigotry that still exists against the LGBTQ plus community, even during a month meant to celebrate it. The online magazine Them reports that bomb threats were made in at least 3 states this month: Alaska, Texas, and Massachusetts, all of which targeted drag events. The article also highlights more than a dozen reports of pride flags or banners being vandalized in states like Hawaii, Illinois, Montana, and New York City, where police say more than 150 rainbow flags were vandalized at the city's Stonewall National Monument, which is partially made up of the gay bar that housed the 1969 riots, known for starting the LGBTQ rights movement. NBC reports this is the 2nd year in a row that the monument was vandalized. In Colorado, in addition to a call to burn pride flags by the GOP chair, police say 6 pride flag thefts were reported during the first 12 days of the month, and they are still looking for the people responsible. Now that my secret is known, I'll forever rest in peace. That was how a man from New York ended a message he wrote in his own obituary, where he finally shared that he was gay. Retired Colonel Edward Thomas Ryan was recognized for his many talents. He was a decorated veteran, former firefighter, co-founder of a radio station, and chef. But he hid his queerness all his life out of fear of being ostracized, as he wrote in his obituary message published in the Albany Times-Union. Still, even in secrecy, Ryan was able to love authentically. He wrote that he got to spend 25 years with the late love of his life, Paul, and he would be buried next to him. Now, the obituary, like the website where this was published, has garnered hundreds and hundreds of messages, like comments from people who are just heartbroken by the fact that he hid his queerness and refused to come out, or just wasn't willing or able to come out until his death practically. And I think this just sheds a light on the fact that this should be a call, or a wake-up call for a lot of people about the fact that it's still kind of a very intolerant world, despite the strides that have been made. And a lot of people might be in a similar position to Ryan.
Definitely are.
I just feel like that's why it's so important to create the spaces for, LGBTQ community to feel welcomed and to feel safe, and for them to feel like they can be themselves. Because without that, you're going to have more and more cases like this.
Yeah, and I feel like when some people see stories like this, they're like, oh, well, why would he do that? Whatever, it's 2024, whatever. I'm like, you should actually, look in the mirror and be like, okay, what can I do to make sure that I am making a space that is accepting and tolerant for people, all people, just in general.
No, exactly.
So it kind of sucks, living with that secret, because it's did you live at all? I know he said, now I can finally rest in peace, but in death. And I feel like there's way too many people that have to rest in peace and can't live in peace. It
No, totally.
sucks.
Yeah, I feel like I misspoke. Like, he obviously did not refuse to come out. He was just probably terrified and unwilling to come out because of the very real repercussions. And he even says, like, I saw how people treated people like myself, and I just couldn't bring myself to do that. And that's such a hard reality. Like, I think we've talked about this in previous episodes, but people shouldn't have to be brave to be themselves. Like, that is just... Because this is the thing, like he made it sound, the way that he wrote that message, it's a beautiful message, by the way. Everyone who's watching should go read it. But he made it sound like it was cowardly of him in a way to not have come out or not have been brave enough to be able to do it in his lifetime, when in reality, it's just a survival instinct for a lot of people. I mean, like we literally just talked about, there's still a lot of bigotry in this world. It's incredibly sad.
This is why I feel like, Pride Month. I feel like Pride celebrations are so important. It's not just people running around naked in the streets trying to corrupt your children, but it's just a way to be like just outward and be like, hey, we're here. We've been through so much. And like now we can finally live outward and free. And it also is a place for people to find community, to find like-minded people. I know a lot of queer people have chosen families because their actual blood families, like, rejected them or whatever. They've been ostracized. So I'm like, that's why I love Pride, because it's like, oh, you can meet so many people just to know, like, you're not alone. There's so many people like you, and there's safe spaces for you. And speaking of, as we end Pride Month, I want to acknowledge a major milestone here in Denver. This year makes for 50 years of Pride. Very iconic. We love that. That's half a century of marches and memories. But the road to Pride didn't come without its challenges. This week, we're taking you down a trip on Colfax to show just how much it took to get here.
It is a peaceful and joyful celebration.
2024 makes 50 years of celebration, but getting there was no walk in the park.
After the end of World War II, the entire country was swept by a wave of fear of people being different.
Phil Nash served as the first director of what would become the Center on Colfax. He's also the author of LGBTQ Denver, a book highlighting the queer history of the city.
There was a feeling in Denver that homosexuality was a threat to the moral integrity of the city. It was a shameful thing, and as a result, any community that developed underground.
So how did the community go from underground to taking over the streets of downtown?
We used to only have one side of the street. We never had both sides of Colfax.
Anthony Aragon organized the Denver Pride Parade for nearly 2 decades.
It all began with protesting, with Stonewall.
1969 Stonewall riots in New York City is known as one of the most pivotal moments in queer history, sparking a movement at the turn of a decade.
That event really created ripples all across the country, actually all across the world.
On June 29, 1974, those ripples made their way all the way to Denver's Cheeseman Park, where the city's first gay inn was held, which we now know as Denver Pride.
They passed out balloons that said Gay Pride, but there were only about 50 people there.
The small but mighty group wouldn't stay that size for long. The following year,
attendance was closer to 500.
And the reason why?
There were 11 kegs of beer donated.
Is just about as Colorado as it gets.
And so there was a bigger attraction for many people to come because there was free beer.
Leave it to a little Coors to help change the course of history.
The growth of the parade and of Pride Fest in general, the numbers have increased every year.
Out and proud, the queer community made monumental strides towards visibility and acceptance.
In 1976, a famous drag queen named Christy Lane obtained the first parade permit to allow for the first gay pride parade in Denver.
So much progress, but soon after, things took a turn.
The 1980s was a time of great sorrow.
Reports from the CDC show over 100,000 people died from AIDS between 1981 and 1990, greatly impacting gay men in particular.
dozens of people I knew did not survive the AIDS epidemic.
A community in mourning still had much more work to do.
We're going to work for our equal rights, not for special rights. That's all we want, is just equal rights.
In 1983, during the next mayoral election, there was a candidate named Federico Peña who tried to build a broad coalition of Latinos, labor unions, the African American community, and the LGBTQ community.
Peña ended up being elected, and while in office, he ended discriminatory policies and appointed Carol Hunt as his liaison to the community. She was the first openly queer person in Denver government. Nash says from then on, the doors of City Hall were open to the LGBTQ plus community, and politicians were paying attention.
Before long, we started seeing them showing up for pride parades because they began to understand that the gay vote could tip an election.
And by 1990, a group called the Equal Protection Ordinance Coalition, or EPOC, succeeded, with Denver City Council passing a comprehensive human rights ordinance, implementing the same rights for queer people that Aragon says have been under attack in recent years.
You know, it's important to remember we have these protections in Denver and Colorado, but our LGBTQ brothers and sisters across the nation do not.
The American Civil Liberties Union shows that right now there are over 500 anti-LGBTQ bills in the U.S.
These rights could be taken away from us. And so I think it's really important not only that we're visible, but that we invite our family, our friends, our coworkers to come out and celebrate with us as well.
Pride is no longer just for LGBTQI people. Pride is for everyone.
I'm here to support gay people. I had a gay son who died, and I want all the gay people to come out. And that's Pride, come out and let their families know, and we can get out and support them.
I would say that I have lived long enough now to know that despite the setbacks, we always win in the end.
And in the midst of Pride Month, he has this party message for anyone who may be struggling with their identity.
Live out. You may experience some consequences, and they may be lifelong consequences, but the rewards of coming out and sharing who you are fully with your family can have magical effects.
Jamal Simon, 9 News. That was so awesome.
That was
I love
so
that.
great, Jamal.
I love that a lot.
It
Oh
was
my
so
goodness.
awesome getting to sit down with them and learn so much. I had no idea about literally any of this, but this just goes to show just how far we've come. And I feel like we were asking them, these guys came along with me. It was a really good time. But just like what it was like what it's like seeing like all the anti-LGBTQ legislation that we have to deal with now. And it's like, we were dealing with this 50 years ago. Like, that's insane that it feels like we're taking steps backwards now.
Yes, absolutely. But it's also a reminder, too, about the strides that have been made.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, there's a lot of work to be done, always.
Much.
It's never ending.
It's never ending.
But this just kind of, it's a time to celebrate, man. It's been 50 years, and, I feel like the queer community, it's not that it's grown. Queer people have always been here. Do
Period.
not get it twisted. Do not get it twisted. But it's just beautiful to see that more and more people are coming out and just owning their identity. And it's just so, so, so beautiful.
Yeah, I would say that one of my favorite parts about this experience was learning and really getting that from talking with Phil, that knowledge of the diversity in the group, the many different people, the many different walks of life that are able to come and have these commonalities together. And to have that community is huge. I feel like it's like Denver Pride, yes, there's still a lot for Denver to do, in my opinion. It seems like there's still a lot of strides to be made, but I think that to have this month and to have a space where they can feel like themselves is so important.
Absolutely. And everyone go buy Phil's book, y'all.
Oh, yeah, LGBTQ Denver. I learned so much. It's so visual. And I didn't know.
He took a lot of the photos.
He took a lot of the
Yes.
photos. History was being made. And my homeboy was behind the lens, taking the pictures. It's kind of iconic.
So he's an author, he's
Journalist.
a photographer, he's an icon.
A legend.
So everyone should go, really, like, go find that book. Like, we love Phil, we love Anthony.
Yeah.
They were both amazing. We love you. You did such a good job.
I love
that
you.
was amazing.
No,
that was so
fun. And I
good.
will say, going through the archive footage was like so interesting to me because I think one of the clips from 1994 or something like that, and to hear him say like, "We're not looking for special rights. We're looking just for equal rights."
I thought that was so powerful.
Right, because I feel like that's people's main defense. Like, why are they so in our face about it? Like, why do they want special stuff? Like, I'm like, it's not special. We just want to do what you're doing. I promise. We just want to do what everybody else.
Like, put me in, coach.
Put me in,
please.
coach. So yeah, it's awesome. I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you so much, Phil. Thank you so much, Anthony. Really good time. Really good time.
And thank you, Jamal. All right, well, we are keeping the Pride Month theme going.
Yes.
We're going to talk about some media that we have been consuming, be it directly queer or not. DeMarco, take it away.
Let me tell y'all, if you have not seen this, you better buckle up, get strapped in.
I'm ready.
and
I'm
watch
ready.
this. All right, so on Netflix, there's this episode, not this episode, but this limited series. I'm sure many people have seen it. I don't know if y'all have, but it's called Baby Reindeer.
I know what it is. I have not seen it personally.
It is crazy. So basically, it's about Richard Gadd. He is in the movie. He plays, or not in the movie, in the series. And it's just so raw. It is raw with his experiences and the stuff that he's been through that it's like, it's just insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only heard things and seen headlines and such, and I know the lead actress in there right there. I know she came out recently as queer. I don't know if she has been out personally.
I don't
for a
know.
long time,
I'm
but
not
she
sure.
at least came out publicly. So that's what put it on my radar, which now I don't only consume queer media, but I was like, oh, let me support.
No, I know. I haven't seen the show myself, but I was like, I remember seeing the headline of her. Didn't she say she was like a big old gay?
A big old game.
I love that. I thought that was so iconic. I've heard so many great things about, well, I've heard it's a heavy show.
It is very heavy.
Can you?
I feel like you got to prepare yourself before you sit down and watch it. Get yourself ready because it's a lot of like his trauma unpacked. But it also is, it's crazy.
Is this true story vibes?
Yeah, well, according to him, it's his, like, I don't want to say perception.
His his account of what happened.
Yeah, it's his account of what happened, basically.
I know, and I heard. Oh no, yeah, no, because I saw like it was some interview somewhere. Whoever it was based on, she was saying like, oh,
She
I
was
don't
mad
know.
because
I
she
don't
felt
know
like
him.
the stalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came out because she felt like it was not a depiction of her at all.
I think it's crazy.
But
Yeah.
wouldn't you say that if you were a stalker?
That's what I'm saying.
I wouldn't
That's what
also-
I'm saying.
Also in this show, the person who plays Terry, she's making really huge headways for like queer media as well. She's a transgender woman, and this is just one of the many breakout roles that she's had.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, it's like, and she was even on like Good Morning America talking about it, where she's talking about playing Terry and getting, like, she was saying that she didn't have that confidence, but Terry has this confidence. And then when she was done with it, she was able to carry that on with how she's living. So I thought that was really powerful.
I love that. I love that. Well, on the other hand, I'm going to talk about something that I've watched multiple times. It's not new by any means, but a lot of people have not watched it. So it's called Portrait of a Lady on Fire. It's a French movie. It's based in like the 18th century. And it just kind of is, just simply put, one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I have begged Jamal to watch this on my hands and knees multiple times.
for so long.
Turns out he had already seen it, and I was like, oh, crazy.
I sat down to watch this. I was like, okay, it's been months. I told Tony I was going to watch this. Let's sit down and watch it. And like the first 30 minutes, I was like, this looks so familiar. I was like, these period pieces, man, it's just so similar. And I just watching, I'm like, I've seen this movie front to back.
Something about queer people and period pieces. But this is the thing. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I feel like more people have watched or like heard of Call Me By Your Name. I feel like the rawness of Call Me By Your Name is comparable to that of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. The cinematography, first of all, is crazy. I was made aware of this movie because of a film class that I took in college. But the love story, the symbolism. There's like Greek mythology in there.
That makes me so mad. But
It's just so beautiful. It's the story of like two unlikely paths of life that cross, and them crossing is just like a very beautiful and temporary thing, but that has such a lasting impact on both of the people involved. And I feel like that's just queer love at its finest.
I feel like when I watch queer movies or queer-based movies, something that always just doesn't sit right with me is when the whole plot is revolved around their sexuality. And like with this, it's like somewhat of an undertone, I guess.
It really
it's just
truly
a vibe.
is.
Like it has not anything to do with the plot whatsoever.
No, it's just two women like falling in love, and like the impact that each other like has on their lives. Everyone has to go watch it. I cry every time I dry heave over my toilet.
Not dry heave. Okay, what am I watching? Mine is not a movie. It is a limited series, and it is innately queer. So it's about, this is going to sound a little crazy, hold on. It's like the 17th century, I believe. It's about this countess. She's now a single mother to like all these kids. I know. And I think it's Julianne Moore.
Love that woman to bits and pieces.
Nicholas Galitzine. And she basically is trying to make a name for herself. She's like, listen, I need some money. I need some notoriety. So she starts basically pimping her son out to King James.
What?
And apparently, like, this was based on true events. It's a true story that's being told, and it's very, very, very queer. But what I want to discuss, it's really good and you should watch it, and it's real messy. But Nicholas Galitzine, how do you feel about straight men playing queer characters? Because like I feel like it's been at least 4 or 5 roles I've seen him in the past couple of years.
Where he's queer?
Yes, it's like his
interesting.
thing now, which, you know,
It's
sure.
interesting for sure.
Yeah, I will say there are plenty good-looking queer men out there
Sure.
who act and are good at it. So my thing is, it's fine that I don't think that every single queer role has to be played by a queer actor.
Okay.
But you should make that a priority, babe, because good-looking, good actors who are queer, there's a lot of them.
I feel like maybe with the straight person playing like a queer role, I think it also will show like that unity as well, though, you know?
I think so. I think at its core, acting is portraying, you know, someone else, someone completely different. How can you really put yourself to the test if you have to be able to play people of different lifestyles, sure. But I will say with that, if you're going to tell queer stories, at the very least, there needs to be like the writers, directors, someone in there that has to do with the story and how it's being told needs to be queer. Because if that actor isn't delivering something correctly, they can switch that up. Or if a storyline isn't incorrect, they could be like, actually, no, not that all queer people are the same, but there are just some things that you see in media and you're like,
if you don't get it, you don't get it.
You don't get it. So, like, if you're going to go out and tell queer stories as a straight person, I would at least have a queer person around to consult, because you would. I would hate, like, I feel like if I were a straight person, I would hate to, you know, portray a different group of people, especially a marginalized group of people, and like push a narrative or a storyline that's completely false and perpetuate any stereotypes. But hate to do that.
Totally. So. And by the way, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the director cast her ex-girlfriend in the movie. So.
Period.
That's how you know.
Cast your exes.
Or don't.
But
if you're a director and you're telling queer stories, just make sure that you have queer people in the room, and maybe that happens to be your ex.
Period.
Anyway, let's hop into our good news of the week. Starting off strong, queer folks are expected to make their voices heard this election season. According to a poll conducted by LGBTQ advocacy organization GLAAD, 94% of queer people plan to vote this November, which means LGBTQ folks could play a crucial role in the upcoming elections. The poll also highlighted a 2020 Washington Post analysis that showed queer voters made up 7 to 8% of the overall electorate.
All right, and take me out to the ballpark. The oldest professional ballpark in the United States was filled once again last week as the MLB paid homage to the Negro League. For more than half of the 20th century, black players were banned from Major League Baseball. The San Francisco Giants and the St. Louis Cardinals played a regular season game in a refurbished stadium. As part of the event, during the game, Willie Mays was honored. It was the first time the plaque honoring Mays has left the museum in Cooperstown since Mays was enshrined in 1979.
Period. Right, love it or hate it, now you can't escape it. Country music is everywhere, and now the Beehive has a few more tracks to add to the playlist. Call it a Cowboy Carter response. Cowboy Covered features 6 emerging black country artists, and they've recorded live country versions of some of Beyonce's classics. The collection is available right now on Apple Music for Black Music Month, and you see her right there, Tierra Kennedy. Hold on, go back. Tierra Kennedy, the one with the big cowboy hat. We actually met her like about a month ago at a Cowboy Carter viewing party.
What?
She performed Blackbird, and everybody sang along. It was so cool. It was such a good vibe.
Oh my
That's really
goodness,
cool.
I cannot believe that. You are so cool.
No, I'm not cool. I paid to get in. I'd
Stop
be cooler
that.
if it was free.
I feel like, so the dope thing about like the Negro League tribute game also is that their stats were just integrated back into the MLB. So, well, not back into the MLB, but for the first time. So these players that were oppressed for so long had the same skills, could do the same things, but because they were darker, weren't allowed to play in the biggest stage of baseball. But now some of their stats are recognized, and one of the best players in baseball, Gibbs, he's out there #1 on a lot of the stats out there. So that's really, really cool.
It almost makes you feel silly for judging a person by the color of their skin. Why would you do
How
that?
weird.
Oh, boy.
That feels silly, doesn't it? Also, queer people are voting. 94% of eligible queer
We
voters
love
in
that.
America are planning on voting. It's because I hate that being queer has become political. But it's been politicized just to be queer because it's like, okay, yes, my life actually depends on this.
Yeah.
Well, my quality of life, at least. So,
Yes.
shout out queer voters. Love
Shout
that
out.
for you.
And
Get out to
everyone
them
register to
polls.
vote. Register to vote.
Please register to vote. All right. Lovely. Everyone good?
Yep.
Everyone great? Lovely. Thank you so much for joining this week's Culture Report. We'll be back to continue the conversation right here on 9 News Plus and 9news.com.